Hi, I'm James Johnson, founder and CEO coach. Welcome to Peer Effect, the podcast where your peers will tell you what's unlocking their 10 million plus business. My guest today is Aaron Solomon, founder of Ambl. They're a real-time discovery and reservations platform, removing friction and choosing where to go out. They've raised 4.3 million seed from industry angels and are live with hundreds of venues in the UK and UAE. We're going to talk about how to validate a new market so you can really focus your efforts on the right areas. Remember to hit the subscribe button before you get too engrossed in the episode, and let's get cracking. Aaron, welcome to the show. Now, we're going to talk later about how to enter a crowded market, but Ambl is not your first rodeo, is it?
It's the first one that started to work. The other ones were kind of, I'd say, very expensive side hustles that I was doing on my own back when I was early 20s, yeah.
Tell me a bit about your first one. I understand that was quite a learning experience for you.
Yeah, that was a clothing business that I started to... So I was working in Knightsbridge at the time, and I'd go to the charity shop on my lunch break and buy clothes from there. And the kind of clothes that you were getting in that kind of charity shop in that part of London was, better than average.
Pretty nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so I started to sell some of that on eBay, and then I started to notice that it was because I've been in the city since I was 18, and it was at the time where people started to move from suits and ties to more smart casual. And I couldn't really find, other than sort of Ralph Lauren shirts, like there's sort of middle ground for sort of smart casual wear. So, trousers, shirts, loafers, that sort of thing. And I basically manufactured, designed, built everything. And that was just as Instagram was starting to become a thing. And it started to work. Like I had that business for about a year and a half. I was making about 7-8 grand a month at one point selling clothes. And then I invested everything I had into a certain line of clothing, and it came back all bad. So I lost all my savings, and I actually left my job to continue it. So it was like a couple of months after I quit. That was a tough time. Time. Kind of scared me off entrepreneurialism for a couple of years.
I can imagine. And what brought you back to it then? Because that's quite a painful first go at it.
Yeah. I mean, it was. I had an amazing job. I had an amazing boss. I had fantastic friends, and I was I had an amazing career. So I didn't hate a 9 to 5. I wasn't like, I want more, I want this, I want to be my own boss. It was nothing like that. It was just this, I just want to build something. I just want to do something. I want to continue working on something and see the fruits of it, because when I got sort of the top of what I was doing before, I was like, this can't be it. But the idea came around from just I think the best ideas, like you'll know from talking to founders, is it was a problem that they had, and it's like, why is no one doing anything about this? And it was kind of just an extension of that. And the problem being that my boss was asking me to try and find a table, and I was like, why is this so difficult? Why can't I just say I need this and someone give me the answer? And I just had this instant vision for the product, and I couldn't find that product.
So you had this instant vision for it, and so the problem statement came to you through first thing. How did you sort of validate it? Because you're looking at a market where it looks fairly full. From Excel perspective, you've got sort of Open Table and Resi in different places.
Yeah, but that was the thing,
next?
right? It was. There's a couple of points to that. So the validation came from me walking around London every day after work, pitching restaurants and bars this idea to bring them people in the moment. So instead of waiting for people to come through the apps that you mentioned or websites or phone, what if you could see people in the moment, them going, I need this, and actually say, yes, we've got space. So it's a level playing field, because, those sort of apps will pay to be at the top, pay to be seen more. But if you're in the middle of London or any major city and you go, okay, 2 of us need a table now, and it pings out like an Uber, what if the restaurant could respond to you and actually tell you that they're free rather than you having to go do all the work? So that's kind of the play on it. But to the other point about, okay, is it a crowded market? And the answer to that is yes, but there's only a couple of platforms like the ones you mentioned, OpenTable, Resi, that then book their own venues. But there's multiple reservation systems globally that make up the rest of the market that don't have consumer-facing products. So that's the difference with us, is we have a consumer app, that's all we are, but we integrate into many different reservation systems so that people can see in multiple places and are from multiple platforms. So it's like a sky scanner for tables.
Let's jump into the sort of the pounding the streets part first. Like, I'm quite impressed that that's how you do it. How long were you doing that before you were like, okay, yes, this is the one?
Did it every day for about 3 months. And I'd go after work, and because I lived at an hour and a half out of London, I'd stay sometimes overnight in like not nice hotels, travel lodges, things like that, just to like, because I'd be out really late, because I'd leave work at 5:36. I'd then get into the city, and then I'm talking to restaurants, and then it's dinner service. I'm kind of waiting till the managers after that. So it's like 10, 11 o'clock from having conversations. And then obviously I've got to be in off work at 7:30 the next day, so I can't go back to Southend or Essex. So it was a lot, but I really started to understand the market then of what the problems were with the bigger players, the costs involved, the pain points of the venues, and really try and work hard on something. Well, actually, I'm having this problem as a customer, despite there being products out there. And actually, there was maybe a better solution to these venues so that they can see more customers, get more customers, and have a level playing field. Because you've got top brands that have a lot of money that pay to be seen more, but then you've got the most amazing family-run restaurants that don't get seen as much. And I just felt it should be level playing field.
So it's a little bit like what Amazon did for books. It's kind of like a little bit the long tail, like bringing the long tail to life. So you probably also got quite fit for 3 months as well if you were spending all this time walking around.
Drinking, because I'd buy a drink just to have a conversation with someone. So I wasn't getting fit.
No.
But I was doing a lot of steps. I think one night I did 17,000 steps.
Nice.
Yeah. I think I took a picture of it as well, yeah.
So actually, you did the validation yourself. You spent 3 months really getting into it, and you've uncovered this pain point that you guessed was there, but we're happy. What next?
It was just not like I was like a dog with a bone. Like I was like, oh my God, there's something here, and I'm going to go and do it, and I'm going to try and make this work. I then when I pitched it to our chairman with my best friend, who's my co-founder. I said, mate, this has got legs. Like, how many times have we been in Madrid, Dubai, London, and we are trying to find a table and we're just having to go around apps and websites and calling? Why can't we just go, I need this, give it to me, like everything else works nowadays? So he was on board, and then our chairman, who is a big foodie, and we explained to him, and he was like, yeah, like I love it, like a nice core, because that sector hasn't really been challenged for a long time. It's just the big players like you mentioned, and there was a lot more like the visuals and the way that you can interact with the venue, and how actually I want an app to be working. I want to say something and get the answer back. So we raised money, and then I had some clients invest very early on, and then the learning starts. It's honestly like, and I was thinking about it today, weirdly enough, it's like you just keep going forward, and then you look back and think, fucking hell, like, where are we? Like, what the hell has just happened in the last 4 years? You kind of don't look back. You just keep moving forward, because you get funding, and you keep doing what you're doing, and then problems, and then smashing through that problem, then the next problem, and da-da-da-da-da. So, yeah, it's just been, I can't believe it's been this long. Like, it's the longest I've been employed by any company. It's my own. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's probably a good sign that you're still employing yourself.
Yeah, I think so.
So have you ever thought about, when you were starting it, was there ever a sense of, is this a feature rather than a product? So this pinging out, let's say, open table, they go, oh, we'll try this. Or is it the sort of because you're tapping into so many more systems and you're getting more unique?
Before we move down this big, long route that we're doing now, it absolutely was a feature. We were a last-minute booking app. That was the niche, because I didn't want to interfere with the restaurant systems. I saw very early on that they all have a reservation system. Operation, it's very, very difficult to get them to change anything, nor do they want to, nor really should they, unless it's really, fundamental to the business. So we were a last-minute app. So the app was designed to basically ping out within a mile and see what tables were free, and the restaurants respond like how an Uber driver responds. And that was the initial idea. And we got some good traction from that. So that was absolutely more a feature than a product, because that's easy to replicate. What the bit is hard to replicate, and that's the bit that I've focused on the most, is how do we get in deep to these systems and basically aggregate the market, which has been a long process, to aggregate the multiple systems so that people have more choice. Because, there's in the UK, there's 7 or 8 systems that all the restaurants use, but only one is bookable on an app. What about the other 6 or 7 platforms that people can't see? So our goal is just to try and bring all these venues together so that people have choice and can use an app whatever city they're in.
Because definitely having used OpenTable, it feels like the choice sometimes can be limited, and you see the same chains on there again and again. There are probably loads of restaurants you can't discover.
Look, they're like, they're 65,000 restaurants. They're a lot. They're huge, and they've got a huge presence in the US, and they've got amazing presence in London. But like, you've got the UAE, you've got Europe, you've got the rest of the UK, you've got the rest of London. There's a lot of other platforms that have a lot of restaurants. Like out here, we're in Dubai now. We launched here just over a year ago. All the top hotel groups use 7 Rooms. So we partner with 7 Rooms, and we can show these restaurants to people. In the UK, all the best sort of bars, wine bars, all these hidden gems use other platforms like Resdar and Collins, and we can surface them. So it's kind of showing everything that they don't, so that people have choice. It's not taking their business, it's the business they don't work with. So, and there's a lot of that. I'm not saying they don't have it, but there is a lot of it, right? There's enough venues, and what people, I think, misunderstand is like, they can't see everything right now. And that was the kind of thing that we saw 3 years ago, where I was like, hang on a minute, there's tens of thousands of restaurants that are nowhere to be seen.
So if we go back to 3 years ago and you look at this, was there always this kind of 2-step model in your head of like, having launched a clear feature and then, or was it something you uncovered?
Yeah. It was like, this isn't going to work unless we do this, but this is going to be way more fucking painful. But that's the gap. That's the gap. I didn't know what it was going to be or what I was getting into. I had an idea. I wanted to make a really cool app. Thought it'd be like 50 grand of my own money just to like build an app. It's not. It's a million times harder than I thought it'd be. And it's taken so long. And we've been working as hard as possible to get it to where it needs to be. But all that time you're learning, all that time you're building, all that time you're validating. So yeah, it's a hell of a journey. But we're trying to build. I'm trying to build something big that can be used globally. I don't just want it to. I don't want it to be like you mentioned earlier, a feature. It's something that I want people, whatever city they're in, they can use, and they get rewarded the more they book on it, and they're also booking across multiple systems, so they're actually having the choice that doesn't exist today.
So this kind of is there a third phase to this in terms of, do you feel that you now have the sort of platform and it's just a case of going country to country and generating awareness? Because it feels like, if I'm saying correctly, the secret sauce is aggregating into these back office platforms, which means you can actually surface these hidden gems.
Yeah, and the customer has the same experience, and the restaurant doesn't have to change the technology. So operationally, it's perfect for the restaurants. That's why I was able to come to Dubai on my own, and within 6 months, all the top brands, Marriott, Hilton, Jumeirah, Atlantis, all using it because it works with the tech. So yeah, so it works. And you're absolutely right. Now the tech's built, but that is not an easy. You can't just get these things. It's hard to do. It takes time, to map it correctly, to make it work in the app. And we're still doing it now. Like, it takes a long time. But ultimately, this does make things very scalable because there's essentially zero cost to get on a venue. They can self-serve. So it's more, yes, there's awareness on the venue side, but then as customers use the app every single week, they'll see tons more venues.
So I see
cities.
And did you use your patented 3-month walk around the city method in Dubai as well?
Yeah, but it was more taxi than walking around because I came in the summer. Yeah. It was hard. Dubai was hard. Dubai was tough.
Why was Dubai tough?
Because, London is really great for starting a business because you can find people to help you, how it's meant to work. So like, one of our first pub groups, there was a guy called Craig, and he was just the GM, but he just loved what we were doing. And we were such a ragtag product, like it really was. But he just liked it, he understood it, and he just helped us, and he let us go live with 30 of his venues just to test it with people, like things like that. And without doing like an MVP and trying to, breaking it and trying to build it and testing it in London, Dubai would never have happened, because this is one big place, and it's arguably one of the hospitality capital of the world now. And they've got the biggest and best brands here, and it's very competitive. So like, you've got to come in with something working, validated, that kind of takes off straight away.
So it's a nice position. I do think London is probably the most, I think we're quite a creative, scrappy city, right? It's kind of people like innovation. Yeah,
they do. It gets knocked a lot, but they do.
And so if you're looking ahead, then do you have all the platforms that you need?
No, we've only just started, but we've got quite good ones. Definitely enough to prove concept, or have proven concept, and definitely enough to compete and have enough choice for people in the major cities that we're going to operate in. Yes. Now we've got our own APIs and our own tech, it's becoming a lot easier to find the right partners to do this, because it's a complete win-win for everyone. The reservation platform has another asset, another string to their bow. Their venues get visibility and bookings. They've got another way to bring customers on themselves. And we're giving customers venues that they've not been able to book on an app before.
Yeah, it feels you've almost got the two sides sorted. Like, you go to your sixth partner and you've already got 5. There's not too much convincing to
we know what we're doing. We know what we're doing. Yeah, like our first partner was one of the big players, but the support from them was amazing, and we wouldn't be around today without them.
And presumably also going out with the users base as well. So now you're coming to them rather than an idea, you're going, we can integrate with you, we've got users, we can turn you on tomorrow. Like, the tech turns on, the customer flow turns on.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, 2 years ago, I'm walking around London handing out flyers to download my app, and I'm behind the counter or with the reservation team showing people how to use it, like going door to door. Like, it was hell. Now, I can sit in my study and can turn venues on whatever city they're in, and they can enable it themselves. Like, it's getting to that part where you try and nail the distribution, which is the key.
So how then do you decide which city to go after? Because it feels like you need to build like a customer base. You can probably turn on the supply of restaurants at any time in any city, but presumably for them to make it worth their while, you need a certain customer base.
Yeah, you do, but everywhere's different. Like, London's thousands and thousands of venues. Dubai has thousands and thousands of venues, but all of the top venues are within, maybe 25 kilometers, right? So it's very, very different. So you can be quite dense and still have a product that works. So every city is very different in regards to that. But the goal for us is trying to reduce the resources it takes to do that. And given that the venues can enable themselves, it is a chicken and egg, but you get the venues first, then you start getting the customers. You can't get the customers without, if you say, hey, we're launching and there's nothing there, then so you need a lot of support, buy-in from the top brands initially, which is kind of the legwork that myself, my co-founder, does to go, look, this is what we're doing, this is what we're building, love you to be a part of it, this is the problem we're solving, this is how it works. And once you get the buy-in from the top brands, again, like the other integration conversation we just had, it's easier to get other brands as well. It's like, who goes first,
So is it fair to say you've got your new market rollout plan pretty locked in by this stage?
Yeah, and it just gets easier. Like, we can do any city now. It's just resources, and like, just own a market, move on. Own a market, move on. Don't just try and 70% of 5 markets.
And so then what? That's a very nice segue. So what then took you to the UAE? So you were, London clearly was your first market. So like, own a market, move on, own a market, move on. What made you decide to step into the UAE?
We had some restrictions So we basically had a test integration, like an MVP test integration to one of the partners, and there was limitations on that. And I wanted to keep moving, and luckily saw that the UAE was quite untapped, but our partner operated there. And I flew out a week later with my laptop and my phone, and just started cold calling the week before, setting the meetings. Was here for 5 days, went back home for 2 weeks, came back for 2 weeks, just did that for about 5 months. Just did that back and forth for 5 months while we were setting up and validating the market, and then developing the product, changing it so that it wasn't just London, it was Dubai. So it was all this stuff going on in the background, obviously raising funding to see out Dubai. And it was just kind of timing really, but I also did want to show that we can take it to another place way quicker than we did it in London. London was a big, expensive, long process to get it right, and it was just good to demonstrate, okay, actually, if we do want to go to another major city, the tech does work, people do want it, we can do it. So it's kind of another proof of concept phase, I would say.
And when you're doing these, I mean, it feels like you're doing it personally, and you're really committed to this test and get user feedback before you leap. How are you having these conversations? Do you have like a form or a template you stick to, or just practically for other founders who are thinking about testing new markets?
Like,
how do you
users, like customers or venue side, you're talking about actual customers?
Probably the venue side first, given that's what you were testing.
Venue side, I talk to like as many as I can. They've made the product. They're the ones that made it work how it did. They're the ones that go, if it works like this is what we need. And that's what I've been going and spending all of my time doing for the last few years, is building something for them to now connect it with these untapped users. So I speak to them all the time. I wouldn't say it's a form. No, it's far more like personal than that.
So for you, it's more about volume of conversations with the right people in just a more relationship building way, rather than sort of
It's relationship and buy-in. It's relationship and buy-in, because like you need without the venues in the early days, like we wouldn't have been able to try. So it's been a very important part of our journey for sure.
How supportive were your investors with that shift of focus?
What to
additional
Dubai?
Focus to Dubai as well?
Well, it was the natural next step because we couldn't do any more than we had done in London for that period of time. So it was either like we kind of sit here, or we actually carry on proving concept. And I think we can do it on a low amount of money, i.e. me go and just see. And that was really it. So it's not like, and then obviously as we start to get the big brands on, we started to invest in it. But, the setup for us isn't expensive because of the tech that's been built. The tech is the expensive part, but that's a global product now. So launching cities is quite an inexpensive thing now, because we've found a way to crack the distribution of the vendors. It's then just sort of the marketing, but it's a free consumer app, right? So, if someone books and they invite 4 people to the booking, there's ways that you bring people into the app. And obviously the more venues that come on, the more people got choice, the more areas they can use it in. So it does start to grow, not organically, but it does still start to grow. So, we've found a very quick way for distribution where I don't now need to go door to door to venues now.
Yeah.
So they're supportive of it because that's proof of concept. Like Ambl wasn't built just to be a nice to have app in London. That's not the goal. So we're going to go to another city, prove it out sooner than later, no?
Yeah. Did you call it Ambl because you spent so much time walking around cities to get it started?
No. People ask me that. The first name was rubbish, that's why. And actually, I called a massive restaurant group. The original product was called Spon Table, like spontaneous table. And when I was cold calling like restaurants to show them the MVP and like talk to them about it, and I called a guy called James Brown, who's he's now the CEO of Prezzo, but he was at Brewdog at the time. Still keep in touch. And he was like, really cool business, but that you got to change that name. I'm not gonna. So that was why we changed the name. And then we went to like a branding agency because we had no idea what kind of name to call it. But I just knew I wanted it to be 4 letters and something that sounded familiar but wasn't used much. And yeah, Ambl came around.
So thanks to Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
And okay, so we looked at the bar side. What about the consumer side? So you've largely nailed the platform bit. You'll have a clear pathway.
Just to be clear, we haven't nailed anything yet, but we're starting to. It's yeah.
Maybe you're more layers of the onion down.
Yeah.
So then on the consumer side, you do have to get mass as well, because presumably your partners are paying you for access to the site. That's, I'm guessing, it's how you monetize. So then you've got to bring people in within a certain time frame.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing the walking around, talking to people doesn't work quite as well on the user side.
No. Getting users is a tough gig. That's why there's so many sort of B2B SaaS products, AI products now, because it's not easy. I'm not knocking it, but it's easier to build something that you can sell to a business and have 5 paying clients, right? Getting consumers interested with like the amount of products that are out there. I think the thing that we've realized the most, which is why we've put so much, like, I'm not interested in building a venue system, right? I've integrated. That's not a market I want to be in. I want to completely be on the consumer side and make the biggest and best booking app, right? That's the goal. But with things now, like, you've got to stay ahead of the curve and future-proof your product and kind of anticipate how people are going to be doing things and what they're going to want, because very quickly you can build something thinking people want it and they don't, or the market changes and like the behaviors change, and it's very hard to keep up with that. So you've really got to like think ahead. But then the main thing is like solving a problem. That's really it. The initial product was a cool product. Last minute bookings did solve a problem, but for a very small amount. And then I saw, hang on a minute, there are 50 restaurants in this area, but then 10 of them I can see, where's the other 40? People don't know that. So it's kind of like we're exposing a problem as well. Do you know what I mean? So it's another challenge. It's like, okay, actually educating that this is another way that you can do things and see things that you hadn't seen before, Yeah.
And so how do you go about sort of the discover? So there's that bigger problem of like flushing out those restaurants for the consumer. You're doing these detailed chats with your partners on the bar side. How are you doing your sort of user research on the consumer side?
We have like our product team is our biggest team at Ambl. We try and do as many customer feedback as possible. We'll test with regular users. We'll talk about features with them. And I reply to every customer service email. Still. Because no one like you one big mistake we made in the early days was building things because we thought people would want it. Very costly, very time consuming. And it was fucking painful ripping out stuff that I was like, oh my God, we actually don't need that. But that's the learning, that's the tough part. And now it's like, okay, we've just relaunched the whole app again because it was an MVP that with so much stuff in it that we're like, okay, now we've got these global integrations, we're scaling other cities, we need to really do this properly. And all we've got now is an AI chat and a map, and that's it, because they're the two things that people used. And we're just going to make them as best as possible. So it's like we stripped back from all the other stuff that was in there and like compounded over time. I mean, it's like, the old app was like, it was like a house with 50 rooms and we only use 3 of the rooms, but you're still paying to keep up the other 40 set. Like, do you know what I mean? And that was all trying to build stuff thinking that people want it. And that was a big mistake at the start. So talking to users is so important. And, they'll really give you the guidance what you need in the same way that venues did. And that's how you get loyalty in the early days.
I'm curious what led you to this, because it feels like you're what has made you so user focused. Like, I think it feels on both sides, like the willingness to walk around London to get launched, then a willingness to spend 5 months testing the before doing it. The kind of being very user focused on the other side as well. Where's that come from?
You have to. I just don't know how you can't be. Like, I'm trying to build something that people can use on a daily basis. It's got to be useful. It's got to solve a problem. It's got to be, you want it to become like a habit, right? And people are going to do that if it fits in with them and it's easy to use and it solves a problem. So without, there's no product then, is there? If you're not user focused, you have to be,
But it feels like you're very comfortable with the idea of talking to people you don't know, getting out there. Whereas I think some founders can be quite comfortable sort of in their bunker, building the product. I'm wondering where that's come from.
Well, because is it a fear of saying people going, I don't like this? Or like fear of, is that maybe why, do you think? I don't know. Why do you think they do that? Or from your experience?
I think it's comfortable. I think sometimes it's uncomfortable exposing the no. I think sometimes people are afraid of they feel socially like it's a tricky thing to do, to go and ask people stuff and get outside the level that you have.
No, there's a couple of things here, right? So like, look, I think that if there's founders that have built a product from an industry that they know, very different, because it's going to work. You've got the clients, you kind of know what you're building, why you're building it, and the problems, right? Obviously, we were building it from an industry that we didn't know, a product that, like you mentioned, the open tables and the resis, they exist, but there was a different thing that I saw that didn't exist. And it was, how the hell does this work? What do I need to do to make this work? So I can't do that without speaking to customers and speaking to venues and understanding, like, I'm going to go and do this, but I need you to tell me what this looks like and how we evolve it. And that's how it's evolved. But, you've got to be prepared for people to go, this is like, the app's broken so many times. Like, honestly, it's the biggest headache. Like, it breaks some, we've had problems, we're about to launch, and then the payment bank that we just integrated with then stops for a month. Like, honestly, all the time. That's just part of it. But, I remember one guy said to me that if you're not embarrassed by your first product, you've launched it too late. It's so true, because our first product was, great at the time, but then quickly like, wow, okay, this needs some work. And you've got to do it. Like, as soon as you rip that band-aid off, then you can actually start to build what people want.
I really like that analogy of the house. Like, I think a lot of products are like a 50-room house and actually just need 3. And I think that's definitely a theme I've seen with founders I've coached. It's kind of like the thing that gives most chance of success is actually reducing our focus from 4 things down to 1. Like 100%. I went to a talk by someone who did a business called Arrival, or was involved in Arrival, which was doing electric vehicles, and they tried to do 4. And he said, if I had to do one thing, I'd go back in time and do one thing, I would do one vehicle.
One vehicle, one thing. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I've seen that a couple of times. Like, you strip back your business and go, okay, I've got 3 product lines. Okay, let's just focus on one. Even if you're taking feel like you're taking a backward step, often you can really unlock that growth, because it's just narrow.
We did it. We had like the video content, then we had the discounts, then we had like Ambl perks. And I just wasn't passionate about that. That's not what I wanted. And you deviate so much more than you think you are. And it's not, and you can't please everyone day one. That's the thing, you can't. So like, you've got to make something that 100 people like, then 1,000 people like, then that 10,000 start to use it and speak to that 10,000 and just keep trying to grow it like that. But you're absolutely right. You have to, I think it'll save you so much time and so much cost if you just try and do one thing like the best that there is, for sure.
So how do you balance? I mean, the one thing that I was wondering, like, how would you balance that sense of you're building a business and you've got to try stuff, and you're responding to user feedback? That would be great if you did X.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
And then there's this kind of like, we need to stick on these 3. Like, how does that work? I've got a thought, but what's your view?
Yeah, like I think if it comes up multiple times, but there's not a lot of things that we're missing now, because look, we've got a full team and we're looking at data and we're looking at the product. So, and because it's so simple, it's like, why would you add more stuff? I think it's like separating like a nice to have and a must have. Like, is it going to move the needle is pretty much what I ask. That's the only way I would build stuff.
So to go back to your example, like, you had all these features that sort of crept in, let's say like perks. Where did that come from?
And shit like that.
Yeah. Where did that come from? Was that sort of an
People
idea that
going,
you
oh,
thought?
it'd be great if we can do this. Oh, it'd really nice to be do this. Oh, what if this happens? What if they're in this situation? Didn't think about that. And you're just sort of trying to cover every base before you've even encountered the problem. So right now it's like we are focused on the best AI and the best map and making it as easy for people to use. That's what we focus on continuously building. If a problem happens, we fix that straight away, or any kind of nuances that happen in the live environment. Because this is the other thing, is like you can build and build and build internally, but you don't know anything until your product's out and live. You've got to get it out. And like even now, like we had the app for 2.5, nearly 3 years, just launched our new one 10 days ago. We're seeing great traction, we're seeing people use it, seeing people engage with the AI, but then you're seeing how they're engaging with the AI versus how we were doing it. And then you start building around that. So you've really got to get your product out, for sure, first thing.
So let's say someone came to you today and said, perks. Let's do perks. What would you say?
No, I've tried it. No, been there, done that.
I'm just wondering,
Been there, done that.
do you think as part of, let's say, a startup journey, before it gets to scale up, you kind of do need to build 50 rooms to come back to 3? Or do you think with discipline, you could maybe keep it at the 3 or max go to like 5 or 6?
It's hindsight. Like, I think that's the reason you do this podcast, is I have done so many things wrong, thinking it was right. Now I've figured it out. It's 4 years in. And there's enough learnings, right? So I 100% do not do loads of things. Just do what you know, and just you got to make that one thing work before you start doing everything else. It's the biggest mistake we've done, trying to do everything to cater. You know, it was tough. 100%. Like, there's the whole reason you do this for podcasts, is hopefully there's going to be a founder that's just starting out that goes, okay, just own one thing. And even if it's just that one part they remember from this conversation, fine. It will save them months, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, doing one thing really well. I wish we did that. I wish I knew the gap and how to do it without having to try and figure it out. You know, I wish I knew how to do it prior.
So let's say you some people are coming in with industry knowledge, and therefore they might have an idea of what that one thing is. Let's say, take your example. How could you have known 2 years ago that the thing that you are now doing? How do you know what to say no to 2 years ago? If you go back to yourself 2 years ago,
yeah,
you not don't to pick on perks, but like
no, but you don't. Like, you don't. It sounds good at the time, and you do everything with the absolute best intent, and everything gets signed off, and everything has a thought behind it. You know, you don't just go and do stuff off the cuff and think, all right, now today I'm going to do this. Like, Dubai wasn't, let's go and do Dubai. It was calculated. It was, okay, there's an opportunity. Does this make sense? Everything makes sense at the time. But that's where, you know, the longer you do something, the more you understand stuff. You do those decisions very differently. So, like, we can technically launch in Spain, Italy, Australia now. But there's no way I'm going to, because I'm still working on owning these markets. I'm still doing these one thing really well. Do you know what I mean? Whereas before it's like, well, we can grow. People want us to grow. We can do it. Like, you know, that's an extreme example, but that's the mentality. Like, let's keep going. Let's hire people there. Let's do it. We can do it. Like, no. We're still trying to figure out things. We're still trying to build it. And I think you've got to I think the biggest thing is giving yourself as much time as possible to figure it out, because that's where stresses happen. You know,
I think
you
that's
need time.
When you're rushing it, you start making different decisions. You make bad decisions. Actually, like,
we did in the early days. Like, we like geared up for a massive marketing launch, and then the product was delayed 6 months. You know, what the fuck? So all these things happen, and then it's like, okay, then it comes out, then that breaks, and this person leaves, and we've got to get there. Like, it's hell, and you only know from doing it. You've got to put yourself in that situation where you know you won't do it again. You know, but it's all part of the learning. It's all part of the journey. And this is, again, why, you know, investors and VCs look at experienced founders, second-time founders, or people that have been done it a long time, because you learn so much during that time. You know, it's hard. It's like sleepless nights, but like, this is where you learn that stuff. You know, would I ever start marketing before an app's live again? trying to marry it up. Am I going to build all these features thinking, I've thought about everything? I haven't thought about everything. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, like you learn.
So if for founders listening, then what's one thing that you think around this topic they could go and do today? I think particularly around this idea of like going maybe from 50 rooms to 3. What could be something else? What is something they could do today that would be helpful for them?
What is something they can do today that would be helpful?
Yeah.
Current founders. Look at your team and figure out who you really need to get to where you need to be. Because staff will make or break your business in the early days. And whilst you can have loads of features, you can have loads of people thinking you need stuff covered, thinking you need stuff done, and you don't. It's the same thing. So I think, really look at who you need. And if they were to come into your office and leave tomorrow, how would you feel? And if the answer is, we'd be okay, then, ask yourself, do you need them? If you came in and go, that would be like a gut shot and we're screwed, then and then bring them in closer. If it's a first-time founder, if it's someone just starting out, I would say go and validate as quickly as possible and just do something every day to build it. Don't procrastinate, just get out and do it.
So fewer rooms, leaner team, get some new shoes, get on the pavement.
How you do it. And just get ready to get rejected.
That subtitle of every founder's story ever. This has been really useful, Aaron. Thank you so much for sharing.
No, you're welcome. Thanks.
Thanks for listening today. And subscribe if you've got more actionable insight from founders who are scaling their businesses right now. And we'll see you next week.